Rev up your engines! Today I'm going to talk about something that most people don't think about it until it breaks. Your car's windshield. Every year in the United States, over 15 million windshields are replaced because they're broken. Yet most people don't know that much about the windshields and how important they are to the structure of the car and what a big deal it is actually having it replaced correctly. Your windshield actually has three parts. There's an outer layer of glass, an inner layer of glass, and then a plastic inner layer. And it's made that way so that in case of an accident, rather than you flying out the windshield, it bends but doesn't break. You've seen the aftermaths in junkyards and movies where there's the windshield and it's got a big bubble in the front where somebody hit it with their head. Well, at least they didn't fly out and get shredded by all the broken glass. It flexed and stayed there. What a lot of people don't understand is that the windshield is part of the structure of the vehicle. It keeps it solid, especially if it's going to roll over. So you have to replace your windshield. You don't want some cheap piece of junk going in there. Now here in the United States, all the glass has to meet the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards. It's a mouthful. And there lies the rub. They have to meet a certain standard, but really, the checking of these standards, especially from some of these Chinese-made, really cheaply priced windshields, not that much checking going in on that stuff. It's kind of like people checking meat in the United States. The feds are supposed to check the meat, right? Well, I watched a program the other day and they said less than 1% of that meat is ever checked in most places. Maybe they have an inspection once a year. I would not say go buy the cheapest auto glass you can when you have your windshield replaced. And I also wouldn't advise you to call the cheapest place that's going to come to your house or office and throw a windshield in, because it's a very involved process actually replacing it. You got to have a lot of good equipment to do it correctly. The guys I use this urethane sealer that's called Sika, S-I-K-A, and it's heated to 180 degrees before they put it on. Half the guys I've seen, they just come and they rip out the old windshield and clean it up a little, put the glue on and slap it in, and away they go. Put a little tape over it to supposedly hold it in place while it dries. That's not a good idea. It has to cure. It is part of the structure of the car. I actually had a customer once have one of these guys come over, put windshield in at their office. They were driving home. They're on a highway. There was almost a big wreck. They had to slam on their brakes and the windshield popped right out. Have a pro do it in their shop where everything is controlled. You don't want to be outside where there's dust and whatever, and if it's raining, they're still going to be doing the job, you know? You don't want that. You want it done in a controlled environment and done by a pro who knows what they're doing and knows what they're buying too. You don't have to buy OEM from the factory. Some of those things will be $700, $800, right? There are many companies that make glass, but the pros, they know which companies make good glass, which make the cheaper glass. Now the really cheap ones, like some of the Chinese units I've seen, it's obvious to the naked eye. You can look through the glass, you can see things are distorted, it isn't the right thickness. I mean, you can just tell. And all those windshields, man, they're curved perfectly to fit the shape. If they're not made perfectly, guess what? They leak. I have had quite a few customers get those cheapies put in, and what happens? The first big rainstorm, the car leaks inside. And once that occurs, the only way to fix it correctly is to pull the whole windshield out, seal it, and put it in. You can't get silicone sealer and just put it on the edges if there's a leak. That doesn't work. Even if it works for a short time, it won't last. The whole thing is supposed to be one solid seal. The urethane is a really good sealer. I use it all the time in my old house to hold bricks together and stuff, you know. My house is pretty much glued together with urethane. But the windshields, they gotta be one solid thing around. That's why you gotta do the whole thing, and you gotta do it right the first time. Because when it's done right, it can last. 94 Celica, that's the original Toyota windshield. It still lasts. Doesn't really have any big cracks, got little tiny chips here and there, but it didn't make it through the first layer of glass, so it didn't hurt anything. Now with 15 million windshields being replaced in the United States every year, Can you prevent it? Well, you know, you can get those giant bug deflectors. Most guys aren't going to do it because they look really ugly. You see them on a lot of trucks, yeah. Those are mainly to try to stop bugs, because bugs don't weigh much, and that's more a wind deflector. It deflects the wind, makes them fly over, maybe light little grains of sand and stuff, but you got a big rock coming. Gravity's going to take over. It's going to hit your windshield. It's going to hit it. And now the only thing you can do there is don't follow gravel trucks closely. If you see somebody that's got a modified vehicle with the big tires sticking outside the fenders, or a truck that they don't even have the mud flaps on the bottom anymore, they keep rocks from shooting up in the air, just either pass them quickly or stay well behind them so the rocks don't fly up and hit you. And if you live up north, any place where it's cold, I guess way south, down in Antarctica, don't shock your windshield. When it's cold, don't come out with hot water and pour it to melt ice. That may shatter the windshield. And certainly don't use a hot hair dryer. You don't want to shock the temperature. Now, to some extent, you can prevent a small crack from getting big by those sealers where they inject the resin into a crack. But realize, the biggest thing that's ever going to seal is something that's the size of a quarter, and you're even pushing it then. Maybe you got a little crack. A lot of these guys claim, if the crack's less than 3 inches long, they can seal it. But from my experience, that's a load of baloney. Once those cracks start, the sun gets to it, the cold in the winter, the cracks just grow, and they go the whole way across. Realize that glass is a crystalline structure, so once it starts cracking, it'll continue to crack, and a little bit of resin really isn't going to stop it from cracking. Now, there are ways to make your windshield more slippery, so things might have a better chance of sliding off, and it's really great so your wipers don't go goosh, and they're silent. And that's using this stuff. I've been using New Finish for years. Basically, what you're doing is you're polishing your windshield. The New Finish isn't a wax, it's a polish. It really makes the windshield wipers go smoothly. Mine used to go crease, and I kept changing the wiper blades, thinking, damn, they're making these wiper blades like crap. Well, after a few days, or sometimes immediately, if it rained that day, they still make the noise, even with new wipers on. But once I polished it with this, it went away, and now I polish it maybe once or twice a year. The noise goes away, and it actually beads water up better too. But let's face the facts. It doesn't matter how slippery you make your windshield. If a big rock comes, it's going to make a hole. And if it makes a big enough hole, you're going to have to replace the windshield. You do want it done right if you got to replace your windshield. And as I said, they have to use the right adhesive, because for modern vehicle with side airbags, the federal government of the United States requires that the adhesive for the windshield has to be 6 times stronger than the normal one to take the extra force that these side airbags can throw out. So you don't want to have a guy pulling up in an old van using any kind of caulk that he's got in a gun, gluing your windshield back in outside where there's all kinds of contaminants going on. And even a pro that does it for a living, if he's honest, will tell you that nothing beats the original windshield the way it's glued in. So now you know the truth about car windshields. And lower quality, when you have to have one changed out if you're planning on keeping the car for any length of time. And of course, don't be a stinker. Let's say you're selling the car and it's all smashed up, so you just want the cheapest one put on so you can sell it. It'll look okay, but it's not a nice thing to do to the next person that's going to be buying that car. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.